Every big change has a group of people that it helps and a group of people that it hurts, but the idea is if you consistently make changes that help a lot of people and hurt very few people, then on average over a large period of times, things will get better for the population at large. In the case of this video, the big change is the huge shift to remote work thanks to the pandemic. The people this change helped were largely the workers, especially the ones that weren't paid as highly, and the people that this change hurt were industries like landlords and small businesses around office buildings that benefited greatly from the amount of foot traffic that people going in and out of offices would create. After all, in places like New York City, there are little stores everywhere, and much like you might make an impulse buy of a box of cookies at Walmart, residents of cities like New York might make an impulse buy of something they saw in a window or some food they saw from a nearby vendor that happened to catch their eye. But of course, it's impossible for a food vendor to catch your eye or for you to see something in a window that you want to purchase if you're never even walking past the window where the vendor is in the first place. And that's what's happening with the huge shift to remote work as people leave the city because they don't have to be there anymore to go into the office in person. Now, this is a great thing or a terrible thing, depending on how you want to look at it. If you're someone that is now remote and much happier because of this, doubtless you see this as a huge win for the workers who don't have to pay huge rents anymore, don't have to live in a loud city, and are able to work from home in the comfort of their homes. But then again, if you're someone that really enjoyed the city and appreciated all the great things that Manhattan had to offer, then there's a chance that that city may shrink or the culture of it might start to die away, and you could view that as a bad thing. But this story of big cities shrinking because remote work is making people able to leave and find cheaper residencies in nearby suburbs or different states entirely isn't unique to New York, but rather it's something we're seeing across a lot of metropolises. Metropoli? Across a lot of big cities. Just look at this chart. This is a measure of how well downtowns have recovered since the pandemic, and it uses mobile phone data to estimate the foot traffic of these downtown areas. And while some places, as you can see, like Columbus, Baltimore, and San Diego have completely or almost completely recovered, as we go down the list, we see some places like New York, which is only at 78%, Jacksonville, Florida, which is down to 74%, and we keep moving down and we see places like Chicago, Portland, and San Francisco, and they're only at about a third of the foot traffic that they used to have. And you can imagine how devastating this is for small businesses, or really any businesses at all in the area. Think of the nearest mall to you, and now imagine the foot traffic into that mall drops by 60 or 70%. Most of the stores would probably be forced to close as it's no longer profitable to operate there. And this is causing some areas like Manhattan to lose out on $12 billion a year in revenue that the workers in the area have just chosen not to spend. But it's not just the private businesses that are taking a hit from this. You also have to think about the fact that with New Yorkers traveling less and spending less money, the tax revenue is also much lower. So now public officials have the issue of trying to find ways to maintain subway systems and invest in schools and keep the city safe when the tax revenue of the area has dropped so dramatically. And while it might initially seem like a good thing that the average worker is spending $4,661 less per year on meals, shopping, and entertainment, the consequences of that lost revenue shouldn't be ignored either, even if you're ultimately in favor of the fact that these workers are saving money. Because for every worker that this helps because they're saving money on transportation and food, there's a business that it hurts because they're no longer getting the profits from that transportation or food. And for every business that it hurts, there's a landlord that it also hurts as the small businesses are no longer able to afford rent. And while I suspect that a lot of people that watch this video are not going to be huge fans of landlords, it's still important to understand that they are an important part of the business world. And if they're unable to get and then spend money, that does have a negative impact on the cash flow of an area and will cause harm to the local economy. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, of course, because it's not as if the total amount of money has really changed. The workers are still getting salaries and they are still spending money. They're just spending less of it, or they're spending it in a different place. What we're seeing here is a shift of people who don't want to be in the city leaving the city because they don't have to work there anymore. And probably we'll also see in the next few years a shift of people who do want to live in the city moving to the city. If all the people that don't want to be in a city head out, then that leaves a lot of vacancies, and that'll probably lead to price drops in rent, and that will allow people who enjoy the cities to be able to move in. But whatever happens in whichever side you're on, it's always important to remember that with these kind of big changes, there are winners and there are losers, and today Manhattan, New York is a bit of a loser.